What's going on, everybody? Jackson Fuller here, along with Owen Hassell, and nope, there's no football upcoming this week to talk about, but we figured we'd give you one final video, a little recap of the season, give you guys some final thoughts as the local football season here in Southeast North Carolina is officially behind us. And I've got 5 things that me and Owen and I are gonna discuss today. And let's get right to number 1, New Hanover High School football. They were the cream of the crop in the area this year. 13-2, a great season. Before we kind of dive into their season as a whole, this Friday night they went on the road and lost to Lee County 34-9 in the 3AA East Regional Final. Owen, you said it today when I walked in. It sounded like they just got beat by a better team, and that was the case. Lee County, 3 Division I commits on that defense, particularly up front, that defensive line. It was just a different animal that New Hanover hadn't faced all year, and probably one of the better defensive lines across the entire state.
Yeah, really no shame in that. I watched the video that you put up about Coach Dylan Dimick, what he was telling his players, and he pretty much summed it up as best as you could sum it up, is don't have your heads down. A great season. It certainly was, and probably better than a lot of us would have imagined. And that was just a better team. I know it still hurts. It's painful. Of course it's painful. You just don't want to see yourself losing. That's the goal is always to win a state championship, whether you're 0-11 or 11-0 at a certain point in the season. So he summed a lot of it up pretty well, more than any of us could, and that's why he's a coach. But New Hanover, just a lot to look forward to now. And there's so much foundation there already. Not that there was a bad one when Earl Smith was coach and led the program. Heck, he won a state title in 2017. But 2 regional finals in 3 years, a state championship in 2017. Some pieces coming back for this team. And what else can you say? New Hanover now just, I don't want to say out of nowhere, but has emerged again as the team.
One of John Winkler, who follows me on Twitter, a huge New Hanover fan, sent me a tweet kind of, look, 13-2 with a new quarterback, a new head coach, a new offense. Like, it was a great year. And I kind of said myself to that, I don't think a lot of people expected this kind of year coming from them. And Coach Dimick admitted after the game, no, he did not expect this season to be in a 3AA regional final, 1 win away from a state title game. The players did, and that's probably what's most important. And you had a really great group of seniors this year. 23 of them are going to not suit up for New Hanover again. So there's going to be some talent that needs to be replaced, mainly, Chase Nixon, the quarterback. They'll need to find another quarterback next year. Makai Stanley and Jaheim Marshall, their 2 best offensive weapons. The defense is losing a lot too, but there is, like you said, it's a foundation now. And look, when Earl Smith came back to New Hanover, he brought a state championship to the Wildcats, but it always felt like a temporary move just because, Earl had been doing it a while. And, this was a job that if he was going to come back, it was going to be for New Hanover football. He stepped away after 4 years, but it feels like Dylan Dimick is in here for the long haul. I mean, he said when he got hired by New Hanover, he wasn't desperately searching for a job. When the perfect fit came up, he was going to apply, and he did and got this job. So as long as Coach Dimick and Coach John Fuller, the defensive coordinator for New Hanover, are there with the Wildcats, there's got to be optimism. And, hey, their cupboard is a little less crowded, but it's not bare. You got running back Raz Chandler coming back next year, their best offensive lineman, Bryson Boyette. Patrick Faircloth, a terrific defensive lineman. There's pieces for New Hanover to make sure this isn't a 1-year blip of, hey, we won the MEC, we're the best team in Wilmington. They've got a chance to go on a run here with Coach Dimick leading the way.
A couple other things, too. This will be the first full year Dylan Dimick will be at New Hanover in 2020 to see these guys. He didn't take the job at January 1st, 2019. No. And I know that you can say, well, that's just they weren't playing yet for months, all that kind of stuff. That's fine, but football's a year-round sport.
Read my weight training, high school football.
Well, you see, I was going to go into that part and get to that, but absolutely correct. A full year now also means that weight training program that Earl Smith was really big on and saying, hey, guys, we're behind in that more than even I imagined. And that needs to be a huge emphasis. And obviously there was emphasis put on it the first day Dylan Dimick showed up at New Hanover. Can't do it so much with just a few months, but obviously some strides were made, 13 and 2 record. That's important. Again, that full year, Dylan Dimick being at New Hanover. Now, any of that lingering thought of, well, he was a Hoggard assistant a while ago. That's been long gone now. That's certainly long gone. If he hasn't proven that to you by now, good gosh, I don't know what else to say. A lot of, and again, this will be a New Hanover team that should be the favorite in 2020 for the Mid-Eastern Conference Championship for good reason.
Yeah, I'd say so, but like we said, this year we considered Hoggard the favorite, and I think we'll get into it in some of these next points. Let's go to number 2. The New Hanover County schools, other than the Wildcats, had a down year. Hoggard goes 6-6. Yes, they make the third round of the playoffs, and that's just something we I guess have to become accustomed to with Hoggard, that they're going to win a playoff game. They do it almost every year. But they struggled in the regular season. They lost to Topsail, which is something they had never done, I think. Laney 2-8, Ashley 0-11. With those 2 schools, yes, Ashley was working with a new first-year head coach, and there wasn't a lot of talent there. You had guys like Mackay and Jaheim transfer to New Hanover the past 2 years. Laney, Ashad Yeoman has stepped down. They're going to be looking for a new head coach. That's a school that always has talent. That's a school that has to get the head coaching hire right, and it'll be interesting to see. I think Hoggard and Laney definitely have potential to turn it around pretty quickly. Ashley is a building process, but when do these 3 schools, do they catch up with New Hanover either next year or in the next 2 years is a big question right now in the city of Wilmington's high school football.
And you already hit on it. That Laney coaching hire is going to be tremendous. A tremendous way to try to answer that question. You never just say, well, we don't need a home run hire for a coach, of course. You always want to get the best candidate just for any job. But Laney has the talent.
Yes.
Laney definitely has the talent to compete with any team in the league, has done that, has been right there toe-to-toe in the last couple of years, to beating Hoggard, to beating Hanover. No one expects it could be anything different because, one more time, the talent is at Laney. It's just going to be really interesting to see. I think the hiring process for Laney needs to be a little different than New Hanover because it didn't fall in New Hanover's lap, but it made sense.
Yeah.
And maybe it didn't make sense to everybody at first, and even we had some questions.
Right.
But this one needs to be a little different, maybe outside the box a bit, maybe outside the area, and we'll see.
I will say with the Laney job, Fred Lynch, the athletic director there, I think has made 2 tremendous hires in his last 2 big head coaching hires, which was basketball a couple years ago, hiring Eric Davis from West Brunswick. The Buccaneers finishing second in the MEC last year and win the conference tournament. Probably would have made a run in the playoffs, so they were ineligible. And the baseball team, Eric Brown, has got that thing turned around in just 2 years, where that was a team that was winning 3 or 4 games in the MEC. Last year, I believe they finished second in the MEC. I don't know right off the top of my head, but they had a bye in the 4A playoffs. They were the best 4A team in the MEC. And those are 2 different hires. Eric Davis from here in the southeast North Carolina area, Eric Brown from outside the area. Exciting to see what Fred can do here with this hire. I think, I described it on Twitter as a sleeping giant. Keep those kids that are in the Laney district at Laney. Don't let them go transfer to Hoggard and Hanover. Keep them there, develop a winning program. You could have, one of the better football programs in the state at Laney, but it's got to be a good hire. And Hoggard has been one of the best programs in the state for so long. Yes, 6-6 is a little disappointing, but there's signs of growth there with some young defensive players. Sam Jones played well at the end of the year as quarterback. They've got to find weapons, though, which is something that the Hoggard team, before this season, the past 2 years, they had 3 Division I receivers and some great running backs. They've got to be able to find some athletic talent and speed on the outside for the offense to kind of get back to where it was.
Yeah, Craig Underwood hasn't. I don't think he's mixed words or anything about the season. He's been pretty upfront, at least on Twitter as well, going, as a good coach will do, and say, put some of this on me. We're working through this. We're going to be fine. Culture's still there, all that kind of good stuff. And it is. And if anyone's thinking Hoggard is going to take a step down next year, I don't know why you would think that at all. I mean, just because, 6-6 this year. Okay, fine. Play some tough teams in the non-conference as well. Tougher than maybe a lot of other schools in this area went out and played non-conference. You can make that argument. So I think all of that coming into, yes, some young players stepping into the roles. There could be that blossoming of an offensive or defensive line like New Hanover had this year with its defensive line taking its lumps in 2018, and then look how well it performed this past year.
Yeah, the defensive line will lose Chris Redmond and Brennan Litzinger, but Desmond Fuller will be back. They're two of their linebackers that played a lot this year. And this was just a season for the Vikings. It started out with injuries. It started out with 2 blowout losses. It was a difficult season, and that happens for high school football. You can't go out and say, okay, well, we're missing our star linebacker Garrett Manning. Let me just go get one. It's high school football. You have to work with what you've got, and I started off this point. It was a down year for the New Hanover County schools, and I don't think anybody with Hoggard would argue that, but there are some signs for optimism that this will be the lowest that it would be in the foreseeable future. Point 3, whereas the New Hanover County schools, other than the Wildcats, were down, Brunswick up this year. Some great coaching jobs across the area, specifically Brett Hickman, 10-2 with West Brunswick. North Brunswick goes 6-6. They were at an over 500 record in the regular season, lost to Havelock in the first round. And South Brunswick with Rocky Lewis, they go 5-6. Been a long time since North Brunswick and South Brunswick combined to win over 10 games. They do go with 11 this year. This is the key to the MEC, I think, where New Hanover and Hoggard have dominated for so long, and it's kind of been a foregone conclusion that when they play last week of the regular season, the winner of that game is going to be the conference champion. Do these Brunswick County schools start to change the tide a little bit, and we have some more competitive games with those 3 at the top, or with those 2 at the top, and then these? Why not?
Brunswick County's growing.
Yeah.
Right? Is that like the biggest understatement in southeastern North Carolina of all time? Brunswick County is growing, especially the northern part with Leland. And you've got to think that more and more students are coming to North Brunswick. There's going to be some athletes in there. It just makes sense. But yeah, Brett Hickman at West Brunswick. What else can we say that we haven't already said through these videos about how West Brunswick improves so much from year 1 to year 2? I saw some of it in year 1. You saw some of it in year 1. Just little pieces here and there where you're going, they're getting there.
Yeah.
They are getting there. And then I think they got there maybe then some this past year. South Brunswick, though, we hadn't talked as much about Rocky Lewis and them because, North and West had done so well. But look how close South Brunswick was having a winning record. Should have won at Hoggard. Yeah. Should have won at Hoggard. And I think Midway had a close one there.
Yeah.
Lost that game. Rocky Lewis has, at least in each of his 3 years, won more games than the year before. So there is some improvement. Yeah, people like to see more, like to see a winning record, but you can at least see that program hasn't taken a step backwards.
No, and their 2 best players, Danny Parker and Roman Dilgard, the quarterback and the defensive back / running back, and Danny Parker, are coming back next year. Now, looks out these Brunswick County schools, they're all going to have to replace some pieces. I mean, West Brunswick, that defense is losing a lot. It still has studs in Carter White and Malachi Hewitt coming back, but it'll be interesting to see what these 3 schools do next year after reaching highs for their recent history. Can they build on that? And, I don't even think it's necessary for them to build on that. I don't think West Brunswick will be as good next year as they were this year, but you can't take a steep drop off, because that's when programs that maybe aren't historically powerful lose some of their momentum. Whereas, Hoggard, with this drop this year, we're pretty confident the Hoggard football program is going to figure it out. I have faith in these Brunswick schools, definitely, but it's not as sure a thing, I think, that they will be able to keep this momentum rolling.
Well, you don't see the tradition. You don't see the history. That's really what it comes down to. But that's then. This is now.
Sure.
And just because you didn't see something in 1987 with this program that you do now doesn't mean anything necessarily in 2019, 2020. I realize you want to hang your hat on something. You need to search for something to try to give you a stat to help you, but this is where we are.
Absolutely.
And looking at the present, all 3 of these schools, I don't see why you wouldn't have an upward trend next year, although West Brunswick, this is West Brunswick's first 10-win season since another Hickman was on the sideline.
1997, they also won 10 games, and they lost 2 games all year to one team on one field. I really think you got to play who the NCHSAA assigns you. I think West Brunswick was one of the 4 best teams in the 3AA East this year. They didn't get to play and be one of those final 8 teams just because they ran into New Hanover a round early than I think they should have.
And that's the unfortunate part for a split league like this, that when most of the 3As are the best, at least they were this past fall, is when it comes to playoff time, they're going to pretty much be lumped with each other the first round or two. So you can't take but so much out of that. You can do, well, only one Mid-Eastern team made it this far. Well, they beat each other up in the first 2 rounds. Not much else you can say about it, but this conference is as balanced now than it's probably been in quite some time, at least as long as I've been here, the few years I've been here. But the balance of this league is going to tell the tale.
Yeah, you said the 3A teams finished top 3 in the conference, and the 3rd place team in the league this year was Topsail, who went 8-3 in the regular season and lost to New Hanover in the first round. And point 4 that we're going to discuss real quick is just kind of the same old in Pender County compared to last year. Great season for Topsail. The football team, this is one of their better 2-year runs in a long time. Pender went 2-9, and the only difference between this year and last year was they actually beat Trask, who went 1-10. Trask has a new head coach this year. Pender will be looking for a new coach next year. Tim Davis stepping down. So
Tim Smith.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Tim Smith. There's a lot of Davises in this area. Tim Smith stepping down. And, hey, Topsail, next year, no Cody Wallace. They had to do it without Noah LaValle this year. Does Gavin Ellis, their star wide receiver, he played quarterback in JV, does he slide into quarterback? Does he stay wide receiver? I just have to say, we talked about West Brunswick and these Brunswick schools. Can they maintain their momentum? Topsail definitely maintained their momentum that they had from last year. Bad loss to Laney. Great win against Hoggard. Just kind of a good season for the Topsail football program, I think.
I think something else to watch out for, too, and I don't know the scheduling yet, is what do they do in the non-conference with scheduling?
Yeah.
and that's not, I try not to make a knock of that, because a few years back, you need to get every W you can. I understand playing Dixon. That's right up the road. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Trask. And obviously, Pender. So, you kind of knock out 3 of your teams right there, but would it hurt too much to try to find somebody else, a Wallace Rose Hill, to play early on? That's close by, so travel's not an issue. Gets a little more notoriety for your school, win or lose, because Wallace Rose Hill's in a little bit of transition, which I know you want to get to in a moment. I think some of that non-conference, if they could just sprinkle in like one game, difficult team in the non-conference with some new pieces coming in, win or lose, that would definitely make a big difference for Topsail to see if the Pirates can stay in that top 4 talk, because like I said before, this league is just getting more and more balanced.
That's a great point, and I know, we don't really know what would have happened. We can't play hypotheticals, but I think Topsail, that Laney game the first week of the MEC, Topsail had played such an easy schedule, and Laney had played such a difficult non-conference schedule. The Buccaneers were used to, going up against a good team. The Pirates weren't, and maybe that was the difference. Maybe Topsail needed to, play against a team that was almost as, as good as them or almost as good as them. I think that's when you look back on this season, that's going to be one of the weirder results in the MEC. Laney beating Topsail this year, but it was early on. The Pirates hadn't played anybody good yet. Maybe that cost them in that early game against Laney.
And you have those 2-year contracts typically with non-conference. I think some of those might be up this year for Topsail. I don't know exactly. And they might have already signed 2 years for some of these schools. But if you haven't, it's a chance to reevaluate that and say, hey, the program is at this spot now where it wasn't 2 or 3 years ago. Let's go out and let's play a Wall. Let's play a Whiteville. Mm-hmm. Let's see what happens.
That'd be an exciting challenge.
And those are 2A schools. Yeah. You're 3A, right? So hypothetically, you're supposed to win, but we all know about, we'll go back to tradition when I just said don't forget tradition. But these schools have been doing well recently as well. So that would be fun for us to see too, selfishly.
Yeah. Yeah, and so you mentioned Whiteville and Wallace Rose Hill. That's the final point. They're just those 2 teams are kind of going in a little bit different directions right now. They played each other in the first round last year, and Wallace Rose Hill with a comfortable victory. Coming into the season, if you would have told me they were going to play again in the first round, I'd say, well, another comfortable win for Wallace Rose Hill, and it was the complete opposite. Whiteville turned that game on its head. They ran it up on the Bulldogs. They finished 9-3. We're right there in the conference championship race all year. The Bulldogs, I know they battled injuries all season. They played a really tough non-conference schedule, but 7-5 is that's a number that you don't hear a lot over in Teachie with the Wallace Rose Hill football program. Will be fascinating to see what these two schools do next year. Both have to replace stars. Jamonte Davis and Ty Moss are gone for Whiteville. Cameron Dalrymple gone from Wallace Rose Hill, but an opportunity for head coaches Kevin Motzinger and JP Price to kind of make their name and show what they can do with some new talent.
You just said it. You've got two coaches who have been there, and if they haven't been there enough, well, their family has. So they've been through this. They've seen the ups and downs of high school athletics. This is not their first rodeo or second or third, et cetera, et cetera. Of course, Coach Motzinger is going to give you those great quotes that get you laughing a little bit, excited. I'm sure he's able to play up even more the fact that Wallace Rose Hill's underdog than ever before. So you'll hear some of that. I don't think these teams are going to take any type of huge drop-off next year still. There's going to be somebody else. It's just always somebody else. And that's the mark of a program that just keeps on going. I mentioned Thompson needing to maybe play one or two tough non-conference teams. Wallace, maybe I would never tell them to drop anybody because they want to play anybody, anywhere, anytime, but maybe explore the idea.
A little easier schedule. But the problem with Wallace Rose Hill is they can't get these 2A or 1A schools in the area to play them. So that's why they have to go on.
They might now after this past year.
Maybe. I still think some schools might be scared to play Wallace Rose Hill in August and September. All right, y'all. Well, that's it. That kind of wraps up these football videos we've been doing this year. We might do another one when we release our all-area football team, just kind of going through our selections. But appreciate you guys so much for watching all year. It's been fun doing these every week with Owen. We'll do some basketball videos, I'm sure, throughout the year. But in the meantime, stay locked in at Star News Varsity on Twitter, Star News Varsity on Facebook, and that's the name of our website, starnewsvarsity.com. Please bookmark it. And I've had a 2-week hiatus from my weekly rundown videos just because it's been a kind of transition period in sports. Those will get back up and running this Sunday. That's kind of your best source if you like watching these videos for local news, and we'll be I'm diving headfirst into winter sports this week, and excited for some MEC basketball that starts Tuesday night. So appreciate you guys so much for watching all year. Everybody have a wonderful week, and it was a pleasure to cover football in the area this year. Congrats to the Wildcats, West Brunswick, and all the teams who had a lot of success this year.